Just last night, Israel's government reached a hostage deal with Hamas. Now, the terms of the deal should be taken with a grain of salt. And the reason why I say that is because right before we went live today, some of the terms of this deal had already changed. So I just want to note that as we share these details with you right now at 3:57 p.m. Pacific time on the Thanksgiving Eve on Wednesday, don't hold us to it because the details could change and I don't want you guys to think that we're giving you misinformation. But here's what we know as it stands at this moment. Under the current terms of the deal, there will be a 4-day pause in bombing. It was supposed to begin tomorrow on Thanksgiving. However, now it appears that that has changed and they will begin the hostage exchange on Friday instead. Now, during that time, 50 Israeli hostages will be exchanged for 150 Palestinian prisoners. And I want to be clear about who these prisoners are. They're women and children. They're not Hamas militants. Okay, let's just put it that way. And that's a good development. Okay, it's good to see that there's at least some movement when it comes, some positive movement as it pertains to these hostages and a pause in the aerial bombardment that the IDF has been engaging in. But aid workers are calling the temporary pause in bombing woefully inadequate to assist the Palestinian people who have, for the most part, been cut off from food, water, and fuel. And the government of Israel and the United States are really showing no sign of easing up on the brutality after the hostages are swapped. Now, we'll get to more of that in just a bit. But first, here are some additional details about the hostage deal. According to Israeli and Hamas officials, the ceasefire will begin at 10 a.m. Well, it was supposed to begin 10 a.m. local time on Thursday, meaning tomorrow. But now it appears it's going to start on Friday. Both Hamas and Israel will be releasing captive women and children. Per The Guardian, the US official stated that 3 Americans will be among the hostages released by Hamas. In fact, just today, John Kirby was asked, how many American hostages are being held in Gaza? And he doesn't even know for sure, but they're estimating that there are as many as 10 American hostages in Gaza. And part of this deal indicates that 3 of them will be released as part of the exchange. Now, Israel has stated that it would extend the pause in bombing by 1 day for every 10 additional hostages that Hamas releases. And there's a lot that we still don't know. And it's important to put that out there, okay? So we don't know which Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners will be released. Israel apparently has some sort of short list of 300 Palestinians, but has yet to narrow that list down to 150 that they are willing to release in exchange for the Israeli hostages. And we don't know exactly how much aid will be permitted to enter Gaza as part of the deal. There are some reports indicating that Israel will allow up to 300 trucks of aid into the strip every day. But even if that's true, you should keep in mind that it is inadequate considering that prior to the war, there were as many as 500 plus trucks of aid entering the Gaza Strip every day. Now, after the exchange, Hamas will still be holding around 200 hostages, according to Israel, and Israel will still be holding literally thousands of Palestinians. According to the Palestinian Prisoners Society, 7,200 prisoners are currently being held by Israel, among them 88 women and 250 children, 17 and under. The plight of prisoners is a key issue for Palestinians. At least 4 in 10 Palestinian men spend at least some time in their life in Israeli prisons. A few weeks ago, I saw a video that was absolutely heartbreaking on social media. It featured a Palestinian woman, older woman. She seemed to be, potentially a senior. She was getting arrested because of something she liked on social media. Obviously not a physical threat or imminent threat to anyone. We're talking about an old lady who's Palestinian and is probably horrified at the brutalization of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. But, they can't really speak freely about what they think because they risk getting arrested. And that's what happened to this woman. Now, many of those Palestinian prisoners may not have a home to return to. That's something else to keep in mind. It is estimated 1.7 million people out of 2.3 million in Gaza have been displaced by the conflict, many of whom are living in tents in the south of the Strip, just as the weather is deteriorating. And according to the BBC, the hostage deal does not allow the displaced residents of Gaza to go back and check on their homes. It's very likely their homes have been bombed, but they're not even allowed to go back and check. What is the point of this agreement if we are not able to go back to the north and find out what happened to our homes in residential areas? They tell me, visibly frustrated and heartbroken. That was a report from the BBC. And as for the United States government, Politico has published a piece that explains that the Biden administration believes that the hostage deal is actually a vindication of their near absolute support of I would even say near absolute support, their absolute, unwavering, devoted love and commitment to Israel, okay? So, according to the same piece, by the way, the Biden administration still has a few worries. Let's start with this one. There was some concern in the administration about an unintended consequence of the pause, meaning the pause in the aerial bombardments that Israel has been carrying out, that it would allow journalists broader access to Gaza and the opportunity to further illuminate the devastation there and turn public opinion on Israel. So, great job trying to censor media or withhold information from the American public who happen to live in a system that is supposed to value democracy. And let me tell you something, democracy ain't crap if you don't have an informed public, an informed electorate. The fact that the Biden administration is more concerned about the American people finding out about the brutality carried out in the Gaza Strip, rather than wanting to do something to protect those civilians, tells you a lot about the Biden administration, if you ask me. The administration's other concern, though, is warranted. The administration remains wary about Netanyahu's endgame and is seeming lack of a plan for what to do once Hamas is defeated. There was no sense that the pause would turn into a lengthier ceasefire, a senior administration official said. And it's clear that the Israeli government is more than willing to resume their brutal military campaign. The military assault on northern Gaza has resulted in only one hostage being rescued alive. So that's how successful the IDF's actions in the Gaza Strip have been in terms of saving the hostages. To be quite frank, I really do question whether the safety and return of the hostages was really a priority to begin with. To me, it seems like Netanyahu's right-wing government is more concerned about getting the family members of these hostages off their backs. Because if you're worried about the safety of those Israeli hostages, those poor people who have been just terrorized and continue to be terrorized as they're held captive in Gaza and they're dealing with the bombardments, maybe you would rethink dropping all those bombs. Maybe you would reconsider restricting the flow of food, water, aid, fuel into the Gaza Strip. Because remember, if the hostages are in the Gaza Strip, they're dealing with what the Palestinian civilians are dealing with. So again, it's hard for me to really buy what the Israeli government is selling in their faux concern for the hostages. I really do hope that they make it home safely. I hope that they do make it out alive. But I really have very little faith in both the Israeli government and, quite frankly, the United States government when it comes to proceeding with caution and doing so in a responsible way that will keep civilians on both sides safe.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.